understand, um, so that you all can understand what a unique position we're in right now. So, in the wake of Dr. George Tiller's assassination on May 31st, 2009, Trust Women was founded in order to honor his legacy and to continue fighting for reproductive rights. At the time of his murder, he was one of the few physicians in the United States who provided later abortion care for women from across the country, in fact, from across the world. In 2013, Trust Women reestablished abortion care in the very same facility that used to be Dr. Tiller's former clinic. This took a nationwide campaign. It took 2 years of searching for a physician who was even willing to practice in Wichita, Kansas. And at the time, the clinic was the only provider within a 200-mile radius. On September 10th, 2016, we opened up our second clinic, and this time it was in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Again, until Trust Women's Clinic opened there, Oklahoma City was the largest city in the United States without abortion care available. So since our founding, Trust Women has always worked to navigate these hostile environments and oppressive policies in order to open and maintain clinics. Clinics that provide comprehensive reproductive health care, and that includes abortion care. Our commitment to protecting and expanding access to essential reproductive health care is an expression of our care for our communities, and it is in defiance against those seeking to undermine equality. For nearly 10 years, we've provided care primarily to residents of Oklahoma and Kansas, where our clinics are located. We've always seen a handful of people from across the region, though. Keep in mind, over 90% of counties in America don't have local access to abortion care. So this means that traveling is a very regular part of this care, even though it is so simple and so safe, right? Keep in mind, people are coming to us now from 12 hours driving for a pill, for a 5 to 10 minute procedure. In 2021, Texas passed a disastrous law, Senate Bill 8. It banned all abortions after fetal cardiac activity could be detected. This is around 6 weeks into pregnancy, and a lot of people do not recognize that they are pregnant until about 8 to 10 weeks typically. So this definitely cut off anybody in Texas who was looking for abortion care. Unlike previous attempts to ban abortion, they were very creative with SB 8, right? They did not have it enforced by the state. Instead, they left it up to private citizens to turn in people who were breaking the law in exchange for a $10,000 bounty. This type of civilian enforcement ban, it's not new, right? But it is a new iteration of what we've seen in the past. We already know that bounty laws are no good, and yet this is precisely what Texas decided to pass. SB 8 truly changed everything. The day before it was implemented, our Oklahoma City clinic received hundreds of phone calls from people in Texas looking to reschedule, to find an appointment, literally from the waiting rooms of these other clinics, right? People have been calling. And over the following months, until Oklahoma banned abortion, and they banned abortion about 2 months ahead of Dobbs. So Oklahoma was actually the first state in the US to ban all abortion. Our OKC clinic took the brunt of the influx from Texas patients, though. Appointments became so scarce that people who live just a few blocks away from the clinic were unable to be seen in a timely fashion. We continue to schedule people out about 2 weeks. Before SB8, we used to see people in the same week that they made their appointment. This is a huge shift, and it pushes people further into pregnancy. It adds to the complications, right? And it adds to the infant mortality rate in these other states. We've mentioned some of the impacts of Texas's SB8 on our clinic and the influx of patients from Texas to our OKC clinic, and also the displacement of Oklahomans seeking abortion care to our Wichita clinic. The change was instantaneous. For 9 months, we worked diligently to develop new systems, to increase our capacity, to ensure safety and health for our staff, for our patients who were already performing a difficult job, and now it was under extreme circumstances. That's when a case out of Mississippi started to pop up on everybody's radar, right? Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Organization, upended decades of legal precedent, and it radically transformed the healthcare landscape in America. It had always been a patchwork, especially in the Midwest and South, but now even more so, whether or not you have legal access to abortion care largely depends on where you live and your ability to pay. In June of 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, key cases that established federal protections for abortion access. As of today, just over a year ago from that decision, 14 states have made abortion illegal. Oklahoma, where our second clinic is located, they banned abortion twice. 2 months prior to Dobbs, like I said, they passed both a civil ban, so just like Texas's SB8, and they also passed a criminal ban, making it a felony to perform an abortion. The consequences of this decision are still playing out across the country. Almost immediately, the spotlight shifted to our Kansas clinic, and we were in the midst of an intense campaign. Kansas, as you may know, became the first state after the fall of Roe to be able to vote on abortion rights. We put it on the ballot, right? And voters delivered. They delivered for abortion rights in a big way, defeating the amendment by nearly 20 points. The state abortion numbers, though, tell a very different story. In 2022, Kansas saw nearly double the number of abortions from the previous year. This is the fourth highest total since Kansas began record keeping. It's more than double the highest number of patients who are traveling from out of state. Kansas is simply the closest place in driving distance for far too much of Texas, of the entire South. These days, out of every 100 patients, over 50 are from Texas. Another 20 are from Oklahoma. And then there's another handful from states like Arkansas, Mississippi. Again, states that do not even border Kansas. That's how far people are coming in order to be seen. And interestingly, we find that in Kansas residents there were 100 fewer abortions provided to Kansas residents in 2022. So already showing the effects of that displacement, right? One of the patients who came to us from out of state, you may have heard of. She was a woman from Oklahoma. Her name is JC Stanton. And she needed an abortion in order to remove a molar pregnancy. A molar pregnancy is a very rare and dangerous pregnancy complication. It is not a real pregnancy. It is not compatible with life. And without the removal of that, the condition can lead to very serious complications and potential cancer or death. JC's doctors knew what they needed to do, but Oklahoma had recently banned abortions. They couldn't act, as NPR reported it, until she became sicker. Hospital employees instructed her to wait in the parking lot until her health deteriorated. This was not just one hospital. JC was turned away from 3 different hospitals in the Oklahoma City area. It's important to point out that Oklahoma's abortion ban, like many other bans across the country, contains the usual exceptions for rape or incest or to preserve the life of a pregnant person. However, without hospitals and doctors willing to provide that care under those circumstances, those exceptions are meaningless. Ironically, most often we find that hostile legislatures can pass these de facto total abortion bans without actually passing a total abortion ban. JC was able to receive the care she needed. She had to check out of the hospital, drive 200 miles away to be seen in our Kansas clinic. The path from need to care was not direct in any way. And we know that this is just one of many, right? Many people are facing the same circumstances in the Midwest and South, in these states that have banned abortion, right? Hospitals are turning them away, and they are weighing that person's life against their liability of, right, these are felony charges that could be brought against doctors. That's what they're debating about. This is not what healthcare should look like. And as more extreme legislatures continue to clamp down on abortion access, more people than ever before are finding themselves caught in this dangerous environment. Just consider how large the population of Texas is. Every single person in Texas has the possibility for these pregnancy complications. Every family has the possibility for this to be how their story goes. Since June of 2022, 19 states have imposed extreme laws to ban abortion, limiting access to abortion, pregnancy carriage, and miscarriage care. 14 of those states are a total ban and do not include exceptions for rape or incest. As a report that was put out by U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren and others detail, these laws pose mortal threats to women all across the country, and Black and Brown communities will be hit the hardest due to the systemic disparities in healthcare access. The criminalization of pregnancy and pregnant people is not new, although it's increasing at alarming rates thanks to all these abortion bans. In 2021, before Roe had fallen, right, a young Indigenous woman in Oklahoma named Brittany Poolaw was sentenced to 4 years in prison for a miscarriage. Despite there being no evidence of neglect or intention on behalf of Poolaw, she was sentenced. Her case is not an anomaly. Between 1973 and 2020, Pregnancy Justice has recorded over 1,600 cases of arrest for women for miscarriages. Around 3/4 of those cases are in the last 12 years. The increase in abortion bans, in fetal personhood laws, in restrictive abortion legislations will continue to impact the rate of pregnant people who are found on the wrong side of the law. One way that we work to fight back against this is through legal action. We recently joined another indie clinic, Whole Women's Health, to protect a medication abortion in each of the states where we provide care. We were successful in previous cases that sought to remove restrictions on telehealth for medication abortions in Kansas. And we recently heard some great news from our fellow Kansas abortion providers that sued to remove an arbitrary waiting period and mandated misinformation. So we no longer have to offer people false information provided by the state, nor do they have to wait 24 hours prior to being seen if they don't receive this information. What's happening on the ground is critical to understanding the trajectory of abortion rights and access across the country. Trust Women is uniquely positioned in order to identify both those immediate threats as well as the long-term opportunities in reproductive health care. So even with all of these challenges that we've overcome just in the past 2 years, we are not resting. Over the past few years, we've seen countless examples of community solidarity as we fought back against abortion bans, fought back against attacks on trans and gender expansive people, and pregnancy stigma and discrimination. From large-scale mobilization of volunteers against the Kansas anti-abortion amendment to the handful of clinic volunteers that provide comfort and security for our patients. These are the things that fuel our passion, our cause in sustaining this work and this spirit during these consistently unprecedented times. It's no small task to redefine an entire clinic, and we've had to redefine both of our clinics entirely. Over the past 2 years, we've grown so much, coming closer than ever before to being a thriving community of care where a beautiful and diverse group of identities and backgrounds and experiences can find relief, acceptance, and empowerment. We'll never stop fighting for the full liberation of all healthcare for all people, including gender-affirming care, medication-assisted treatment, and as always, abortions. Before we close, I just wanted to share with you all a few testimonials from patients that we've received over the past year. You can find some of these on Google, but Helen wrote, "Considering the reason I was there, it was a non-judgmental professional clinic. It turned out I needed a less invasive method and a refund was issued. I was so impressed with this clinic that I donated the refund. Fortunate to have found this welcoming, safe space during my time of indescribable self-conflict." From Diamond, "This clinic is awesome. During my procedure, the nurses were very comforting and made me feel very well supported overall." From Salai, "I'm still here at my appointment and I love these people already. They are so kind and so considerate of our situations." And finally, one last patient. "To my Sano support, Sierra, I appreciate your kindness and good energy you've shown as an angel. To Sunny, thank you for being there with love. To Nurse Kate and Dr. Lara Arnalis, I pray that you are able to wake up every day and know that you are valued and trusted. This community showed nothing but support and love, and I appreciate them." This is about more than reimagining what healthcare can be or who we serve. To ensure the health, safety, and joy of our communities across the country, we must expand the circle of inclusion. We are all better off when we all have access to the resources that support our lives, and it's time to redefine our relationship with healthcare and with each other. We truly hope that you all will continue to fight for liberated abortion with us into the future and consider joining us as we redefine our relationships with healthcare and with each other. Whether providing abortions, gender-affirming care, or treatment for substance use disorder, or organizing students and communities to take on extremist lawmakers, Trust Women will always be on the front lines caring for our community. Thank you so much. And I cannot hear you all if you did ask a question.
Can you ask on your computer?
That's what I was.
I may have to read the. I don't know.
We're still working on this. Yeah.
Are there any questions, maybe, and then we can, she can read it. Well, which arrow? Oh, the first one. It's in her face.
Okay.
Just like what she's doing.
Okay.
Is there a question?
Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Terry?
So I have a two-part question. Yeah. Part one is, well, I'm gonna have to. No, yeah. Part one is how when get to legally to do what they do. So that's part one. And part two is how does how do they do this day to day emotionally? Can you talk to her on that? I think the microphone.
Oh, okay.
No, it's off. Can you talk through your speaker?
Yes, she can.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. The question from Terry was basically how do you do this every day?
Emotionally.
This is a strong emotional commitment that you're making.
Yeah. This work is incredibly rewarding. I think this is also probably a large reason why so many of our physicians also get into this work. There is very little that you could do in this world that is as immediately impactful as giving someone an abortion that they desperately wanted, right? You ask any one of our patients why are they there, and overwhelmingly it is a parenting decision. Most of them are already parents. Most of them want to be able to be a good parent when they want to become a parent, right? And so to be able to return this small amount of control over their lives back to them is incredibly rewarding. I think the reason that I can continue to do that is knowing that we've returned some small amount of control back to each and every person that we do get to serve and see. And even with all of the challenges that we faced in the past 2 years, right? I look at that Kansas win, 60% of the voters agreed, just the voters, right? It's probably a larger number of actual people in the state. So most people do already agree with us. It's just that the anti-abortion side has been so well entrenched and so well organized for so long. So it's going to take some time to get back to re-legalization in these banned states. But, Ohio proved it again just recently. Most people already agree with us that this is a private decision and that the government shouldn't be involved in it anyway.
How are they working with the other advocacy groups, Planned Parenthood, NARO, etc.? Now.
Okay, and our question is, how are you working with Planned Parenthood and other advocacy groups?
We obviously work very closely with our local Planned Parenthood. They're a multi-state entity, Planned Parenthood Great Plains. And so we work with them on legislative session, on navigating the legal restrictions that we do still have here in Kansas We work with them quite closely. I will point out this though. When we opened our clinic in Wichita, the Planned Parenthood that was already in Wichita did not provide abortion care. And so we really have, and the same thing goes for when we opened up in Oklahoma City. We have shown them that providing abortion care, even in this hostile environment, even with these huge barriers and restrictions, it can be done. And so they have followed suit.
I'm just wondering to check this when someone turns someone in, a woman in, $10,000. What happens to them? I mean, is that a criminal? Do they put her in jail?
The question that we're having here is do you know what happens in Texas after if a woman is turned in?
Yeah.
Is she put in jail? What happens to her?
Yeah, these laws that they passed are less about enforcement and more about fear mongering. So Texas does specifically have in their law that the pregnant person cannot be punished. The whole thing is that the other people who assist that person, they can all be punished, right? So it really attacks our community, our private relationships, right? There have been, I want to say, like 3 or 4 instances where people have tried to test this new Texas law, and none of them have come to any sort of payment or jail time or anything, right? However, what it has done is out the person that was looking for an abortion. So there was a woman who was on the very southern border of Texas. She was outed as searching for an abortion. She had gone to the ER, and something in her story alerted the nurse, and they turned her in, saying that she had sought an illegal abortion. The district attorney proceeded to file paperwork to say that she had broken the law. He later on discovered that he was out misinterpreting the law, right? That he did not understand that the pregnant person could not be criminalized. And yet what happened is that this woman's name was all over the local newspaper in a very small town in southern Texas. So thus far, nobody yet has had to pay any bounty of any kind, and there's not been any felonies even charged for physicians, even though one Texas physician blatantly, he wrote an op-ed piece about how he broke the law and performed an abortion after there was cardiac activity detected. So nothing's come to the end of its journey through our court system, but nonetheless, the damage is done, right? Patients have been calling us thinking that they're going to get turned in, thinking that if they tell anybody that they might go to jail, thinking that they have to keep it secret from everybody in their life. And the point at which people are most likely to get turned in is when they go to the ER or to the hospital, or to just as our patients butt up against the traditional healthcare system. That's the danger for them.
She hears your mic. No, you put your volume on.
Okay. The question is, how do doctors deal with the law versus their Hippocratic oath?
Yeah. It depends on where they work, right? As you know, every doctor is scared of a malpractice lawsuit, right? But these hospitals especially are terrified of getting sued over these things. Already there have been a couple of cases that hospitals have been turning away people that they should not have turned away. The technical term for this is called EMTALA. And so it's based on the ability for them to accept Medicaid and Medicare dollars, right? But if somebody is in need, they are supposed to be seen by the ER. The Biden administration has been bringing these EMTALA cases against hospitals. Most recently in Kansas, this is one of the very first EMTALA cases that's come through, where there's a hospital in Kansas City, Kansas, that did not take care of a person who was going through a miscarriage. J.C. Stanton, whom I spoke about in Oklahoma, she is suing the state of Oklahoma over the abortion restriction that prevented her from receiving care in her home state. I think for younger physicians, though, they are leaving this state, right? Oklahoma already, I mean, in the Midwest and South, right? Already doctors, nurses, and especially OBGYN doctors are deciding not to stay in these states because they don't want to have to make that decision about whether they should get a felony charge or whether they should take care of someone that they know they could take care of just a few hundred miles away, right? As our laws get more and more uneven in this country, you're going to see, we already have seen, right? Residents, medical students avoiding these states where they know that they might get criminalized or where they know they're not going to receive the education that is required to do their job, right? An OBGYN doctor has to know how to handle a complex miscarriage because that's what could walk through the doors of the ER any day. And if they don't receive that training in a low pressure setting, they're not going to have that ability when it is high pressure.
Yeah, that's her.
Are you able to read the questions that are on the chats?
Oh, let me take a look. One moment. I have a question about the lack of doctor direction doctors are being given about when and how they can act. Yes, so there was actually a recent volunteer-led survey that in Oklahoma, where volunteers called each and every hospital in Oklahoma and asked them, what is the policy for somebody who is actively miscarrying but still has electrical cardiac activity? None of the hospitals could give a straight answer. Many of them did not even respond to the survey. And I think this is something that every state that has an abortion ban should definitely invest and look into doing, to finding out each and every hospital's policy on this. Unfortunately, J.C. Stanton in Oklahoma, she is one of the lucky patients who was able to be seen. There are far too many people in the Midwest and South who are simply doing without, and we're beginning to see that in terms of public health numbers. Most recently, Texas put out its infant mortality rate. After 1 year of illegal abortions, the infant mortality rate in Texas went up 11%. That is not a small percentage. So that was people who had pregnancies that were not healthy. They did not have the resources to adequately care for themselves even. And yet their legislature's not taking action on that, right? What they are doing is attacking people and trying to jail them over needing to make a decision that they know is right for their life, when in fact what they should be doing is working to increase the infant survival rate, right? Working to give people the resources necessary. That's just one statistic, though, that we're going to see. Again, as these laws play out, as this continues, it will progress in terms of maternal mortality, child poverty. It is not a surprise that the states with the most abortion restrictions, even prior to the fall of Dobbs, right, had the worst healthcare outcomes. Oklahoma, that we have kept our clinic open and are working to pivot to other services, they are in the top 10 for infant mortality, maternal mortality, child poverty. It goes on. So the lack of direction these doctors are getting is, we will see the numbers. We will pay the price. Our communities will pay the price on this.
Number of vasectomies. Many of the states are restricted. Good thing. It's not a solution. And also, the same people who seem to be against abortion are also against substance. And how does that play out in your and
Okay, there's a question about the number of vasectomies rising in the states that have restrictive abortion laws. And also, there are questions about the availability of the abortion pill, misoprostol and mifepristone both.
Yeah, definitely people are responding to these restrictions and managing their own healthcare as best that they can. And that more vasectomies, more long-acting reversible contraception, and these are all steps that people are taking independently if they're able to. For the access to mifepristone and the medication abortion, there was that huge amount of just noise about it a few months ago, because this is the first time that a drug has been taken to court in this manner, right? I don't want to get into the details of it, but it is a fight between the FDA and a decision coming out of Texas, right? So it's not, again, this is not it's not a surprise. This was by design, and it is the same group that is behind the formation of Dobbs, that is behind the construction of Texas's SB 8, right? It is all of that dark money in politics, especially working through the Alliance Defending Freedom. And we have that here in Kansas, even trying to impact our mayoral races. This is by design. They are going at this from all angles in order to restrict access to abortion care. Right? It's cruelty by design. So with the Miffy case, it is still making its way through court. Right now, we do have the ability to continue to provide medication abortion under the most recent scientific guidance that was approved by the FDA, but that's precisely what they're trying to undo. And the access to the medication abortion is very, very uneven, again, depending on where you live and your ability to pay. There is a wonderful documentary out there. I believe it's called Plan C, that goes over some of the doctors, some of whom live abroad, who are mailing mifepristone into the U.S., into states, and into banned states even. That's not something that we can do as an independent abortion provider with a clinic in Kansas to protect. We're unable to flout the law like that, but some of these other doctors are able to do that and take that under a risk to their own license.
Got a missing cable.
And I want to thank Ms. Tong very, very much for speaking with us this afternoon. And again, thank you for putting up with our technical difficulties. And this information was very, very enlightening for us. And finally, I want to ask Ms. Tong, how do you recommend that we get out the information about what is happening, and how can we get our majority more active?
Yeah, definitely check out our website and broach this conversation with your loved ones, right? With your friends, even if they're not 100% with us. Every little bit that we can move people, every single positive conversation that we can have about abortion helps us get closer to that reality of it being free and on demand and available wherever people live. I'd also ask that you all invest in the politics of the Midwest and South. We've shown, right, that we can win these elections, but we do have to have the resources in order to talk to the everyday voters and make sure that they understand what anti-abortion forces are trying to pass, right? How they're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes and trick them really into banning abortion, even though that's not what people want, right? They deliberately word these ballot measures so confusingly so that they can deter voters. And that's what we're up against in these very, very red states. It will be an uphill battle, but it is winnable. And as you'll see, more and more states will work towards getting an abortion ballot measure where they can. Thank you so much. Thank you all for seeking out this information and having me and having the time for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.